This video is sponsored by Skillshare, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Last month, I completed a 30-day VFX challenge where I had to create a VFX video and a VFX tutorial every single day. In this video, I'll be showing you 9 things to look out for when working on your next VFX project. Maybe these tips will help you level up your own VFX videos. Number 1, plan ahead. Planning can make or break your video. Ask yourself before filming, how big will my product be and where would I like to place it in the scene? Pay attention to your surroundings, check your environment. Are there things on the floor? Are there things on the walls that are going to interfere with your concept? Because these things can give you a lot of headache in post. For example, in the first video I worked on in my VFX challenge, there was a tiny little leaf on the floor where I was supposed to flip the ground. And if I had paid attention while filming, I would have easily fixed that by taking the leaf out of the scene. It can be something as little as that and it will save your entire project. Number 2, make sure that there are enough high contrast, well-defined objects on the floor and on the walls. When I mean high contrast, I mean surfaces that are not flat, that are not just one color. Especially if you're planning to track this video later on in Blender, you need to have enough distinguishable objects in the scene. Because the way camera tracking works, the software has to pick a point on the video and follow it throughout the video. So if you have a video that has a very flat plain wall and a flat plain floor, that's going to be a nightmare for you to track in Blender. Number 3, shoot various versions of the video you're trying to capture. So you have a concept in mind, but don't just go to the location, pull out your phone and film it and go back home. No, you need to experiment. Use different angles, use different style of shooting. You could go back and forth, you could swivel around where you want the product to be. You can try so many different things so that you can have options when you go back to edit it in Blender. Because trust me, you'll have a horrible day if you go out to shoot and then you come back home and realize that everything is just crap and untrackable. So have different versions of the video you want to track, and also try and capture a still video. So if you have 5 different versions of the video you recorded, also try and capture a stable stationary video. Just in case for some reason none of the videos were able to be tracked, you can have a stationary video that you can easily work with. Also, when it comes to shooting, take videos and photos of the environment for reference. This is very important and a lot of people skip this step. Trust me, you won't be able to remember everything you saw in the scene when you were shooting. So take pictures and videos of the environment, of the buildings, of the floor, of different angles. I'm talking about angles that won't be in the actual video. For example, if you're shooting in this direction and on this side there is a large brick building, it's going to reflect on whatever you're shooting here. But if you don't take account of that red brick building when you're recreating your scene in 3D, your product is not going to match the scene. Number 4, you don't have to track your footage in Blender. This tip is especially for me. Blender has a pretty powerful tracker, but it's not the best tracker out there. There are a lot of scenes that you won't be able to track in Blender that After Effects will be able to track in a snap. With just a few clicks, softwares like After Effects will be able to track an entire scene automatically. But every tutorial I have on my channel right now was tracked in Blender. So if you want to see an After Effects tutorial, how to track your moving videos in After Effects and bringing it into Blender, let me know in the comments. Number 5, pay attention to video frame rates and project frame rates. So whether you're shooting on your phone or your camera, pay attention to whatever frame rate you're using to shoot. And you can easily find these details when you bring your footage into your computer. Just right click, go to properties, go to details, and you'll see the frame rate there. So the frame rate could be 24 FPS, 30 FPS, 60 FPS, 29.97. So get that specific number and make sure the frame rate of the background video is the same frame rate you use in your Blender project, and it's the same frame rate you use in Premiere Pro, After Effects, DaVinci Resolve, wherever you want to composite or edit your footage. Make sure you have the same frame rates across board to avoid unnecessary issues. Number 6, lighting. And this is where I see a lot of beginners flop. Make sure you cross-check your lighting intensity, your lighting color, and direction. So whether the light is coming directly from the sun on a sunny day, or is a cloudy day, or is an indoor scene, whatever it is, pay attention to the color. Is it sunset? Because sunset is usually more orange. Is it noon? Also for the intensity, how intense is the light? Is it super bright? Is it kind of dull? Pay attention to these parameters, and also pay attention to the direction of the light, because I see a lot of VFX videos where all the shadows are going this way, but the actual product you put in the scene is going another way. That really breaks the entire effect. And also, yeah, when you put your product into the scene, pay attention to the shadows. The shadows are super important. The color of the shadows, the intensity of the shadow, and also the shadow direction. That is why you need a lot of reference. Take pictures when you're shooting, take videos so you can see other objects in the scene and where their shadow is facing. Because if you don't have something to reference, how do you know exactly the direction of the shadow? Number 7, very important. Make sure you match the material of the shadow catcher object in Blender to the material of the flow in the actual scene. I see that a lot of beginners miss this, and it can absolutely mess up the look of your render. Because if you add a plane as the shadow catcher and you leave it as default white, but the ground where you're putting the object is actually brown or gray, it wouldn't match, because the color of the floor is always reflected. And especially if your product is a reflective product, you will reflect whatever texture you used on your floor. So if it's a concrete floor, floor, make sure you have concrete materials for your floor. If it's a brick floor, make sure you have brick materials. You can also do a camera projection to project the material from the video onto your mesh in Blender. If you want to learn about that and all these things I've been talking about, you can check out my VFX course. The link will be in the description. Number 8, reduce motion blur in Blender when you're using iPhone footage. So when you're shooting for VFX on a camera, it's generally advisable to increase your shutter speed so you wouldn't have a lot of motion blur and you'll be able to track stuff. But when you're filming on a phone, especially on an iPhone, they have little to no motion blur. I'm filming on a camera right now, and as you can see, as I'm waving my hand, if I pause the video, you'll be able to see the motion blur. But when you film with an iPhone, most of the time they crank up the shutter speed and you wouldn't see any motion blur. So you have to match that in Blender, reduce your motion blur to something like 0.1, something very low, so that you also have low motion blur like your iPhone footage. This is one mistake I made until I figured it out. It makes no sense for your CG object to have a lot of motion blur and then the background has no motion blur. So match it up in Blender. And finally, number 9, when you're working with physics simulations, take into consideration the real world scale. What I mean is pay attention to how big your objects are relative to the real world. So make sure everything is scaled properly to match the exact size that you were planning for when you were planning for the video. Since we are all about learning new things to help us improve our work, you need to know about the best place to learn things online. Whether we are talking about digital skills, soft skills, or even life skills, Skillshare is the place for you. Like if we go on Skillshare now and try searching for something like Blender, you'll see a lot of Blender classes here touching on very different subjects like shading, texturing, creating different types of cinematic scenes, animating with physics. So whether you're looking for something specific like Blender to Unreal Engine workflow, or you're looking for something that covers a wide topic like shading, like mastering character creation, or 3D modeling in Blender. You see these 4 classes, 1, 2, 3, 4 by Derek Elliott. These are some of my favorite classes on Skillshare. If you're just getting into Blender or 3D and you want to go over the basics, I suggest you take these classes. Start with this, then this, then this, then this. You'll get a very good idea of Blender and how to use the tools. When it comes to VFX, this is one of my favorite classes on Skillshare. It really goes through the entire process of creating VFX scenes using a combination of Blender and After Effects. And I will absolutely recommend this to anyone that is interested in learning more about this space. And even outside the 3D space, if you're interested in learning skills like graphic design or photography, you can find a lot of classes here on Skillshare. You can see food photography, iPhone photography, using golden hour, different specific topics on different specific skills. And even if you want to level up your business and your marketing as a creative, there are a lot of classes here for you. For me, I run a motion design studio, and this class by Juan Galvan was super insightful to me. And even though my agency is more about motion design and animation instead of web design, I really found some tips here super valuable when it comes to actually managing your agency and managing your business. So yeah, Skillshare is a great place to be as a creative person passionate about learning. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So check out the first link in the description, and thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So that's it guys, I hope you learned something super valuable from this video. Please smash that like button for me, it really helps this video reach more people, and I'll see you in the next video.